In the middle of the night, I received a call from the emergency room that my family had been in an accident. Margaret, however, stopped her husband from going to the hospital. Whoever's family takes care of them. Your parents didn't raise my son, so why should my son take care of him? I reminded my husband. The hospital said the heart was badly damaged. We must go there right away. Margaret, however, immediately pulled down her face and tugged at her husband's clothes, crying and screaming, I have been with you and your siblings since your father's death, and I haven't remarried. You haven't even given me my old age yet, so how can you go to the hospital to provide care for someone else's parents? Besides, I'm not dead yet. When did it become Ching's turn to be the head of this family? Liangzi, you can't marry a daughter-in-law and forget your mother. My husband silently changed back to his slippers. I also stopped talking. Anyway, the one who got into the accident was his precious sister. At 10 o'clock at night, I was just about to turn off the light when the phone rang. Emily Zhou had been in a car accident and was in critical condition. There was no time to lose. I said something had happened and grabbed my husband, Ryan Zhou, to go out. But as soon as I changed my shoes, Margaret yanked Ryan Zhou back. Whoever takes care of the family, takes care of the family. Your parents didn't raise my son, why should my son take care of him? Besides, if you put my son in the hospital just after the new year, Ching, aren't you sincerely cursing my son? Margaret said, but Ryan Zhou didn't slow down. Mom, why are we talking about this now? Are Ching's parents not parents? This is just to bring you here for the new year. Don't go too far. We agreed that you would go back after the first day of the new year. I looked at my husband, who was so righteous, and felt very relieved. Ryan Zhou grew up single parent. Ryan Zhou has been a single parent since he was a child. But he is a good and progressive person with a gentle temperament, and all the money he earns is given to me, and he doesn't have a little bit of mom's treasure in his breath. Even though his mom often used the grace of birth emotional blackmail him, he also tries to maintain fairness and justice between me and his mom. This kind of husband, this life is worth it. Hubby, the hospital said the accident was Emily Zhou. She has suffered a serious heart attack. We have to be there right away. Ryan Zhou's eyes reddened. He broke away from his mom, picked me up and opened the door. Margaret was in a hurry, her face turned into an eggplant, and she jumped with all her might, her feet straddling the doorframe. You're not going out of this door today, even if you say it's the end of the world, she said, her voice getting louder and louder. Her voice grew louder and louder, and she slapped her thighs and burst into tears. Ritsuko, why can't you see that she's trying to get you to go out and serve her parents? I've been with you and your siblings since your father died, and I haven't married again. You haven't paid for my old age yet, so how can you go to the hospital to provide care for someone else's parents? Besides, I'm not dead yet. When did it become Ching's turn to be the head of this family? Liangzi, you can't marry a wife and forget your mother. Ever since we got married, Margaret felt that I stole her son. She's always been on my bad side. Her words are more and more harsh. In the past, I could have argued with her, but now I don't have time for her. Mom, I repeat, nothing happened to my parents. I frowned and spoke, saying word for word, it's Emily Zhou. She drank too much at a class reunion and had an accident right after she left the house. The doctor said it himself just now. Every minute you keep making a fuss, your daughter will be in danger. If you don't believe me, call the hospital and check. Bullshit. Margaret was furious and slammed the cell phone in front of me down the stairs. With the sound of the phone splitting apart, Margaret became furious and rushed over to me, ready to slap me. Mom, that's enough. Ryan Zhou pulled his mother away with a loud voice, causing the neighbors across the street and up and down the stairs to show their heads. I was a little embarrassed. Sorry, guys, for disturbing your rest. I've done the math. Tonight is an auspicious night. If Ritsuko goes out, he'll lose his fortune for the year. Margaret yelled. Lena Lu, I don't care what you do. Lena Lu, I don't care how serious your parents' car accident is. If you want to go, you go yourself. Liangzi is my son. If you dare to mention letting him go out again, they'll crash here. It turned out that no matter how I explained, Margaret was always convinced that it was my parents who had the accident. I hurriedly looked at my husband. Margaret, however, blocked her body, straddling the middle between Ryan Zhou and me. You don't have to pretend to be an innocent facade manipulative woman to seduce my son. From the time you entered the door, my son drew a clear line with me. What is the New Year's Day to pick me up to come over to live? I think it's that you are sincere to let me see that you are instructing my son to flaunt your authority in front of me. You just don't want me to get along well with my son. What a big hat. I was so stoned that I couldn't speak. It was Ryan Zhou who had the wisdom to take out his cell phone and dial Emily Zhou's number. Well, find out if she's Ching or not. looking at the helpless Ryan Zhou and the crowd of neighbors watching. I could only put my last hope in the hands of Emily Zhou. That I could only put my last hope on Emily Zhou's cell phone, but after calling for half a day, I only got the machine sound of the other party's cell phone being turned off. That I took out my cell phone and dialed my parents' number. But the two old men have always had the habit of turning off their cell phones automatically at night. Now the same cannot be contacted. Even the hospital's phone number was out of reach. All was silent. I no longer have the strength to argue. Margaret, on the other hand, held my hand sympathetically. Kiyoshi, don't blame me for this. The spiritual advisor said that tonight is Ryoso's wealth-attracting night. You are his wife. You have to be his supportive partner, don't you? Remember, you and Liang are husband and wife. The relationship between husband and wife is greater than anything else. Even if you die today, you have to step aside. The spiritual advisor said, as long as Liang doesn't go out tonight, not only can we gather wealth, we can also have a son. Listen to me, stay home with Liang tonight. Tomorrow, you can quit your job and prepare for your pregnancy at home. That I moved my lips and didn't explain. Forget it. If she doesn't believe me, so be it. She always has her own theories anyway. Summer insects don't talk about ice. Respect other people's destiny. That I still understand this principle. But just when I thought Ryan Zhou would rebel against his mom like before, that he had just sworn to call Emily Zhou, when he heard the word son, his eyes quickly flashed with a bright light. The hand holding the cell phone also unconsciously hung down. Could it be that Ryan Zhou feels the same way? Ryan Zhou and I have been married for 4 years. Only one daughter, Nora Zhou, was born. The reason why Ryan Zhou resolutely did not let his mother live with me, it's because of his mother's series of strange maneuvers during menstruation. Feeding the baby rice porridge and making cloth diapers from rags found in the garbage were all just base manipulations. That it wasn't until the third time I found out she used cold water to make her daughter's formula that I couldn't take it anymore and had a huge fight with her. Since then, Ryan Zhou sent his mom back home. Knew I had a difficult labor with Nora Zhou and didn't want another baby, much less mentioned a word about a second child. But now it is. I didn't dare to think about it anymore, closed the door of the house heavily and pulled Ryan Zhou into the room. Hubby, the one who had the accident is really Emily Zhou, your own sister, or you can call the hospital's main desk now to ask that we live on the second floor. It's not a high floor. Now tear the sheet into strips of cloth. Let's go down from the windowsill. I pointed to the balcony, and then I started to tear the sheet. Ryan Zhou didn't budge even though I was tearing the sheets for half a day. That he only looked suspicious, his eyes flickering with a dark light, as if he was stoically expressing something. Ching, actually we should consider having a Ryozi. Ching, come out, the spiritual advisor is here. Ryan Zhou's voice was interrupted by Margaret. The door of the room was kicked open with a bang. A pungent smell of fire and smoke followed. Knowing Margaret's character, I had done enough mental construction. But when I came to the living room, I was still shocked. It was as if I had been doused with a tub of ice water on a cold day, and my body was chilled to the bone, only to see Margaret is leading the spiritual advisor with a Taoist robe in the living room, over and over again sprinkling ritual talismans. The spiritual advisor, without even taking off her shoes, was jumping on my tens of thousands of dollars sofa. The leather couch was instantly burned with large holes as the fire-ignited ritual talismans were thrown onto the floor, TV and couch. Get your ass down here. I panicked and yanked the man down, dragging him to the door. Get out of my house. The spiritual advisor froze in place as I was fierce, and Margaret wasn't happy about it. Shao Qing, this is the spiritual advisor I paid a lot of money for, specializing in the hour to drive away evil spirits and attract money to your house. Otherwise, how will Ryozi get rich? Otherwise, how will Yangzi get rich, and how will you have a son? The spiritual advisor reacted with an arrogant face. It seems that this monk is not destined to be with the Tao. That's all. Ms. Wang, it seems that your grandson is out of luck. That I was going to tell them the value of the sofa. Margaret heard the words "no chance for my grandson" and slapped me in the face. You poisonous bitch. You're sincere, aren't you? You're trying to keep me from having a grandchild. You're deliberately trying to kill our family. Mom, you've gone too far. You can't hit people. Ryan Zhou took me in his arms and carefully examined my face. Ching, are you all right? There are ice packs in the room. I'll go get them for you. What? Why can't you beat her even though you are her wife? Is she that valuable? Which wife in our village isn't a beaten one? Liangzi, let me tell you, wives need to be beaten. And a beaten wife is good for kneading. Margaret ignored my swollen face and the anger in my eyes. On the one hand, she was staring at Ryan Zhou, who was using ice paste to reduce my swelling. While staring at Ryan Zhou, who was using ice packs to reduce my swelling. She kept winking at the spiritual advisor. The chanting of the spiritual advisor resounded in the room again, and at the end of it, he even deliberately glanced at me. Monk, you are too spoiled to your wife. If she has a son in the future, she will go to heaven. Margaret pretended to be sad. It's bad luck for the family. The daughter-in-law is not virtuous. The son also married a daughter-in-law. Forget mother. It is not easy for me to meet spiritual advisor you, but also by this mother-in-law stirred up a mess. At that moment, the thought of stabbing this old woman grew in my heart, but then I looked at Ryan Zhou's face, which had turned black. Then I thought about Emily Zhou in the hospital. My thoughts subsided again. Anyway, her retribution has already come, so why should I bother with her more? The cell phone rang again. It was the hospital. I silently muted it and only looked at Ryan Zhou quietly. Husband, I'm asking you for the last time, are you going to the hospital with me or not? Ryan Zhou slightly frowned. Ching. Looking at the always resolute Ryan Zhou, the questions in my heart were answered. Sure enough, compared to me or his sister, what he cares most about is carry on the lineage. It's the son of nothingness. My hand was shaking with cold, moist with sweat. My fingertips were slippery. I pressed the button several times before I barely managed to click the connect button. Emily Zhou's family? Why isn't she here yet? The patient's blood oxygen is now as low as 60, and she is in danger at any moment. Is this another prank by you and your girlfriends? Ryan Zhou closed his eyes helplessly. Ching, listen to me. Mom is also doing this for our own good. Once tonight is over, I will send mom back home. My lips opened and closed, and I moaned almost silently. It seems that even if the hospital passes the video over, Ryan Zhou would just think it looked like Emily Zhou. I approached Margaret's side and stood still, taking a deep breath. I raised my hand and slapped her. No relief. Slap. A combination of left and right punches swelled Margaret to a pig's head, which was a relief. Ignoring Margaret's screams and Ryan Zhou's shock, I calmly opened the door to my room. Ryan Zhou, you know I've never been one to take offense. Whoever hits me, I'll definitely return the favor 100 times. Over. Now I, your sister-in-law, have to go to the hospital to sign for your sister's life. If you still have some conscience, follow me or well get a divorce. I dropped the words and headed out, but just as I took a step, I received another call from the hospital. Emily Zhou passed away due to lack of family signature. At the same time, Margaret in the room also received a call. Emily Zhou's family? I finally got through to you. Come to the hospital. Emily Zhou has just passed away. In the hospital, when she saw Emily Zhou covered with a white sheet, Margaret's eyes went black and she fainted. Although I have been reminded of this many times, Ryan Zhou's face was still instantly pale when he saw his once vivid sister turned into a cold corpse lying there. He had been looking for acquaintances to ask for treats since 2 months ago, planning to send Emily Zhou to study abroad after the year, just hoping that she would have a good future, but the situation was far worse than he had imagined. Emily Zhou was raped by someone who got her drunk and finally threw her out on the street in an accident. The only evidence is the blurry surveillance video from the convenience store across the street from the bar. All that can be made out is that 4 men wearing hats and masks threw Emily Zhou onto the street. Now it was all over. Ryan Zhou was holding the wall, shaking uncontrollably. Those bastards, I must find them and avenge Ching with my own hands. The police called me and Ryan Zhou over to ask a few more questions, to the effect of what time Emily Zhou left home and so on, but I didn't expect that in these few seconds Margaret woke up. Without any further ado, she lunged at me with a loud voice. It's all you. You bad omen, you can't give birth to a son and you jinx my daughter. My daughter? Why didn't you tell me it was Ching? Why didn't you say it was Ching? You did it on purpose. You killed my daughter on purpose. Her roar was so loud that the police just heard it. I was a bit embarrassed to meet the skeptical gaze of the young policeman, but the old policeman beside me looked like he had seen a lot of the world. He was not shocked, and he even helped me avoid Margaret's pouncing grab. Ryan Zhou's mood gradually stabilized as I finished my statement that he picked up Margaret, who had dodged the grab. Mom, you go home first. Tonight Ching and I will be busy until dawn. How can that be? Margaret jumped up with a jolt. Now that Ching is gone, you're the only son I have. How can I rest assured if I don't watch over you personally, in case you get jinxed again? Mom, in front of the police, Ryan Zhou was not in a good position to snap, but he was obviously getting anxious. Can you say one less sentence? If you hadn't been so unreasonable, Ching wouldn't have died. Margaret, who had always been used to pointing the finger, simply couldn't stand such accusations, and once she stomped her foot, she actually sat down on the ground and patted her thighs and cried, Ritsuko, are you obsessed by that vixen? You can say anything for her. Do you have a conscience? I knew Margaret was ignorant and selfish, but I never thought that she would be able to justify all this in front of the police. The two policemen looked at each other and calmly called out to Ryan Zhou, who seemed to have lost all his strength. We will pursue this case to the end, but right now we do need you to cooperate with our investigation. How soon can you deal with your mother's emotions? Ryan Zhou's entire body seemed to be torn apart. He swallowed half a day's worth of saliva before he could barely speak. Very soon. In order for Ryan Zhou to better appease his mom, I directly followed the police to the police car. After making a statement and submitting evidence, the sky was half lit. When the older policeman escorted me out, he stared at me with deep eyes for half a day until I was about to walk out of the door of the police station. Then he spoke. We have experienced a lot of cases where Margaret's sassy behavior caused family conflicts and even tragedies, so you'd better minimize your contact with Margaret, he said. Thank you. My eyes were a little sore and I bowed deeply to the police. Everyone realized that Margaret would only make things worse. Ryan Zhou, however, could only send her away by force. But is sending her back home really the answer? 4 years ago, when I married Ryan Zhou, he told me that his mom was controlling and not easy to get along with, but he would do his best to protect me, and in the past 4 years, he did. But thinking back to the scene at home where he was tangled up, my heart can't help but be covered in a layer of frost. How much of Ryan Zhou's protection was out of love for me? Or is it more that he understands that his mother is not easy to get along with, and he doesn't want to be the centerpiece more than anything else? If one day, in the future, he really wants me to have a second child, I asked it also like running away from his mother to try to force me in every way possible. Rushing back to the hospital, Emily Zhou had already been sent to the morgue. Margaret has been sent back to the car by Ryan Zhou. During the time waiting for the coroner to pick up Emily Zhou, there were more and more cigarette butts under Ryan Zhou's feet, and Margaret's screaming and cursing didn't stop, as she was adamant that I had jinxed her daughter. Ryan Zhou's great-aunt, who had hurried over, added fuel to the fire. Ryozi, I think your mom is right. Ching Ching was jinxed by your daughter-in-law. You're lying. Ryan Zhou grabbed his short hair, his voice full of inexorable anger. Ching Ching has reminded us many times that we must go to the hospital immediately. But what about you, Mom? You not only prevented me from coming to the hospital, but you also found a so-called spiritual advisor to make the house a mess, and I got carried away and believed you, and now you're preventing me from cooperating with the police investigation. Aren't you the one who caused all this together? However, Ryan Zhou's hissing failed to wake up Margaret, who was pretending to be asleep. But if Lena Lu had made things clear earlier, I wouldn't have stopped you from coming to the hospital. It's all her fault. In the face of Margaret's righteous blame, Ryan Zhou had no more strength to argue. I finally had a chance to intervene. Mom, I know you've always been prejudiced against me, and I've never tried to please you, but I've done everything my daughter-in-law should have done, from thousands of health supplements to silk cheongsam. What haven't I bought you? It's okay for you to be angry with me because you think I stole your son. But Emily Zhou had a chance to live, and you indirectly killed your daughter, and that's the price you pay for your nonsense. Price? 2 heavy words hit Margaret's head. She instantly stared blankly, and the car was silent for a while until you could hear a pin drop. I didn't stop. I kept firing like a machine gun. Margaret Wong, why is it that Ryan Zhou only lets you come here every year on New Year's Eve? Have you ever thought about it? It's because you're overbearing. Why did you call your sister-in-law over when I went to make a statement? It's because you think I'll drag Ryan Zhou to accuse you and make you take the blame. Now that your sister-in-law is here, you have your family to blame for Emily Zhou's death. Right? You have to know that you are just an ordinary person, not the center of the universe. Even your own son does not have to be around you all the time. Ryan Zhou is an adult, married. He has enough freedom to do what he wants to do, not to be a mom's baby boy who is lifted up by you in your pants all day long. Otherwise, if Emily Zhou passes away today, it could be Ryan Zhou tomorrow. Do you understand? Margaret's face turned white as I scolded her. Her mouth opened and she couldn't say a word. Instead it was the great-aunt next to her who stood up. Who are you talking about? Who are you calling a nuisance? Who are you calling dirty? Am I the kind of person who would chew on the root of the matter? I was laughed at directly from the cell phone to call up the words of the great-aunt just now. Ching Ching is your daughter-in-law jinxed. The vicious words kept replaying in the car, and my great-aunt's face turned green to spinach. Ryan Zhou snapped open the car door. Now hurry up and leave my car, or don't blame me for disowning you as a relative to drive people away. Since the autopsy report from the medical examiner will not be available until some time later, Ryan Zhou decided to give Emily the autopsy report first. Ryan Zhou decided to give Emily Zhou a pray for the deceased memorial service first. I say pray for the deceased memorial service. In fact, It is just a face-saving measure for Ryan Zhou to alleviate his own guilt that he had nightmares for 2 days, each time. Emily Zhou, who was standing at the door of the ghost, hissed at him with her bloody mouth open. Why didn't he save her? Just 2 days, people have lost a big circle of weight under the eyes of the black and blue heavy like crows, all day fluttering without a little spirit. However, only a few people's memorial service. Margaret also want to come to participate in a foot. Either she is pointing her finger at the priest in monk's robes or she is picking on the tributes. Ryan Zhou was already unhappy because of Emily Zhou's death and running back and forth between his home and the police station, but now he didn't have the energy to deal with her. Mom, I did the memorial service, I invited the monks. If you don't like it, you can go out. From now on, don't ever tell me what to do. Silly son, that's not telling me what to do. Mom is afraid that you're too young to be cheated. You don't know, there are such a group of people in the society nowadays who specialize in pretending to be monks to cheat people out of their food and drinks. You are so young, how can you do it without me around to keep a watchful eye on you? Margaret said while glancing at the monks with a look of disdain. Looking at the monks whose faces were getting worse, Ryan Zhou sighed heavily like a doll with its fluff removed from its body. It was as if Margaret could never understand anyone, even I, who hadn't even spent a month with her combined, couldn't stand her. It was hard to imagine how Ryan Zhou had endured those 30 years. It's like Margaret didn't cut Ryan Zhou's umbilical cord at all. And no matter where Ryan Zhou was or what the situation was, she would pull him back as long as she wanted to, regardless of life or death. Ryan Zhou couldn't take it anymore and slammed the table, pointing straight to the door. Mom, I'm telling you right now, I'm 30 years old. I don't need you to be my gatekeeper. You're leaving my house right now. Maybe it was because she had never seen Ryan Zhou go so over the top with her before. Margaret froze, broke down and cried, while jumping and pouncing on the monks and scratching, not counting, but also in the guise of desktop cleanup spiritual advisor, a sweeping clear the desktop. With the sound of tinkling plates, Margaret reached out and grabbed the biggest piece and put it between her neck. Ritsuko, I was widowed at 25, and I've worked hard to bring you up just so you could drive me away. Do you know how much I've suffered to put you through college? If your father knew, he'd be furious again if he knew you were kicking me out. Obviously, I know better spiritual advisors. Why do I have to use these fake monks? I just don't want you to get screwed over. What's wrong with me? Why can't you sympathize with my heart? The offering table smashed. The monk ran away. The memorial service was completely ruined. Margaret, with a face of indignation, held up a porcelain tile and stabbed it into the artery of the neck. Ryan Zhou was so frightened that he fell to his knees. Mom, you're the only family member I have now. Don't. Ryan Zhou trembled and bowed his head with purple lips. Margaret glanced at me. A hint of smugness flew from the bottom of her eyes before she threw away the porcelain tiles and hugged Ryan Zhou and wailed, Ryozi, listen to your mom. I wouldn't lie to anyone but you. Ryan Zhou's whole body shook immovably for a while. And then he let Margaret hug him like a corpse. In the end, Ryan Zhou failed to resist. Margaret had tried this trick time and again, and every time, she was able to drag Ryan Zhou, who was trying to stand up, back to his knees. But now that the memorial service has been ruined, what can be done? Unsurprisingly, under Margaret's arrangement, Ryan Zhou spent a lot of money to bring back the original spiritual advisor. Cigarette ash and talisman paper were thrown all over the place. The new sofa and coffee table were ruined beyond recognition. Margaret was laughing and praising that I was shocked beyond words. Ryan Zhou just can't get rid of his mom. Wouldn't my future life be a disaster? Combined with Ryan Zhou's previous signs of wanting to have a second child, that I deeply understood that he and I also had very deep differences. What should I do now? Whether it's to get rid of his mom or to avoid having a second child. There seems to be only one way in front of me: divorce. What about Nora Zhou? Just when my mind was in a mess, the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, it was my parents who had brought Nora Zhou back from a trip that I subconsciously didn't want my parents to have any positive contact with Margaret, and just as I was about to take them out, Margaret pushed the door open and cried, In-laws, how can we live with this? I've lost my only daughter. Within half a minute, my parents were dragged inside by Margaret on the pretext of grief. Ryan Zhou took my hand. Wife, let my mom take care of this place. Let's take mom and dad out for some dinner first. I knew that Ryan Zhou was trying to avoid my parents' contact with Margaret, but I knew that avoiding them like this was not a solution at all. Looking at the messy house and my parents' bewildered faces, I felt physically and mentally exhausted. I was tired of hearing Margaret's voice, not to mention contacting her. However, before I could say anything, Margaret dropped another bombshell. I'm hungry too, let's go eat together. At the entrance of the building, I grabbed Ryan Zhou and tried my best to discourage him. Hubby, you know your mom's temperament best and why mom has always been at odds with yours. Are you sure you want them to eat together? Can you guarantee that there won't be any problems? I'd better send my parents away. And Nora Zhou too. Ryan Zhou, however, held my hand with a difficult look on his face. Wife, don't worry. I've already told my mom, after this meal, they'll send your parents home on the pretext that they need to avoid the prophecy. After all, my mom, you know, not to eat this meal to her nature will never be satisfied. Don't worry, now that everything is as she wants it to be, one meal will definitely not cause any problems. That I nodded my head skeptically. What I was thinking was that I could use this opportunity to let my parents see Margaret's face. Margaret is a typical person who is not interested in profit. That if she would take the initiative to invite my parents to dinner, there is definitely something wrong, sure. Enough. Soon after we sat down, something went wrong. A big problem. Margaret's reckless urging and carry on the lineage theory directly touched my mom's minefield. Why mom came from a patriarchal family, and she was one of the few girls who made it out of the mountain village on her own in those days. Later on, faced with her blood-sucking grandma and grandpa, she decided to move away and cut off her relatives. And she didn't even go back to attend the funeral arrangements. So when she heard Margaret say that she wouldn't close her eyes even if she didn't have grandchildren to die for. My mom directly disliked her cold face and said, once a person dies, not to mention his eyes, even his hardest leg bones will be cracked and burned to ashes. Even if it turns into ashes, I will still have someone to visit my grave after 100 years, like you two old people. If you close your eyes one day, there won't even be any funeral rituals. Margaret gave me a disgusted look and started to give orders to my mom. In-laws, you're a couple of years old. Why don't you understand that men are the root? Tell your daughter to quit her job and give my son a son as soon as possible. A woman's family, every day to go to work. Who knows her unit are some of the unsavory people. Splat. The chopsticks were slammed by my dad, pulling up my mom and leaving. Nora Zhou was so scared that she whimpered. Ryan Zhou rushed to catch up. Dad, calm down. My mom, she can't read or write. She's used to foul language. The meal was a disaster. It wasn't until I sent my parents home that the drama ended. It home. My mom and dad looked at me with hate in their eyes. Ching Ching, your father and I didn't agree to you marrying Ryan Zhou. It's not that the kid is bad, it's that his mom is too feudalistic and controlling. His mother, this kind of person is like your grandmother. A cry, 2, 3 hanged, selling miserable play good emotional blackmail children, a pinch of inaccurate. I see you and Ryan Zhou this period of time have been tossed by her not light. He now dares to blatantly catalyze the public. That he now dares to blatantly urge you to give birth to a second child. Pregnant if it is not a boy will dare to force you to abort, and then force you to keep giving birth. You can stand it? My mom sighed and touched my forehead like she did when I was a child. I'm not trying to be a mother. I just want you to understand that Ryan Zhou is too soft-hearted. He can't get rid of his mom. If you don't try to help yourself, you'll only be dragged into the quagmire. Together with him, you are the child that your father and I have grown up with in our hearts. How could mom not want you to suffer? Mom's words were like a ray of warm and bright sunlight, instantly dispelling the haze that had long existed in my heart. Sour nose, actually like a child lying on the shoulders of the mother, whimpered and cried. Mom gently stroked my back, waiting for me to cry enough before saying, think about the future road, how to go. I nodded my head heavily as the streetlights outside the window reflected like stars in my mom's crystal eyes. I decided to go back and talk to Ryan Zhou. Ryan Zhou has to choose between me and his mom. If Ryan Zhou chooses me, it means our marriage is still saved. If not, it's the end of our marriage. But as soon as I made up my mind, I got a call from Ryan Zhou. Wife, come to the hotel. Nora Zhou is missing. I'm a new car driver who just got my license 2 months ago, and I drove the car as if it were an airplane. Watching the skyscrapers falling back, I didn't feel scared. On the contrary, my brain was unusually clear and worked super fast. How did Nora Zhou disappear? Although she was only 3.5 years old, she had been guided and educated extremely well by my mom and dad and me since she was young, and would never have wandered off unless someone deliberately lost her. Margaret. Sure enough, this idea was confirmed from Ryan Zhou's mouth. When returning home from the hotel, Margaret excused herself to take Nora Zhou to the gated community convenience store to buy candy, but 10 minutes later, she showed up at the back door of the gated community with a crying Nora Zhou in her arms. While Nora Zhou was crying her heart out on the surveillance camera, Margaret kept hitting her swollen face as if she couldn't see it, and then threw her across the street. It was a long abandoned construction site. where all kinds of vagabonds mingled all year round that I didn't dare to think about it any further. I just felt like my lungs were about to explode and my heart seemed to be tied by a thin rope and I couldn't catch my breath in pain. That is her own granddaughter, ah, how dare she? Ryan Zhou on the phone was still comforting me, constantly emphasizing that he would be able to find Nora Zhou, and not to call the police. Otherwise his mother's body would never be able to take it if she went in, but I'm losing my daughter that I still have to think about his mom. I can't wait to go back and poke his mom to death with 3 knives and 18 holes. But as much as I hated it, my mind couldn't help but think of what Ryan Zhou had said and done over the years that I in the first year of our marriage. Margaret stole my gold jewelry to show off and sold my diamond ring that he begged me not to call the police, saying that he was starting a business and such a thing would affect his reputation that I in the second year of our marriage, Margaret was cheated by a healthcare fraudster and had to jump off a building when Ryan Zhou's company ran out of money. Ryan Zhou in order to save his mother, behind my back to sell my mother's dowry car to his mother to fill the hole, begging me not to call the police or his company will be finished that I in the third year of our marriage. Margaret secretly gave me fertility drugs. Ryan Zhou begged me not to report it to the police, saying that Margaret also wanted to hold her grandchildren and had no bad intentions. That it seems that apart from making his mom and I not live together, Ryan Zhou only begged me not to call the police, for his reputation, status, offspring. So many things, too many to count. The meaning of enlightenment was understood by me in this moment that I was finally willing to admit that it turned out that I wasn't that important in Ryan Zhou's heart. On a usual 40-minute road, I drove to my home in only 10 minutes. But as soon as I entered the house, I saw a rosy-cheeked Margaret lying on the sofa with a towel on her forehead, yelling that her legs hurt. Ryan Zhou, who was busy serving her medication, was pounding on her leg. That I yelled, "Did you find Nora Zhou?" Ryan Zhou walked over to me with a bowl of medicine. "Wife, don't worry, the gated community security guards have gone to look for her. Surely there will be good news soon. They'll give the medicine to Mom first." I can't hold back any longer. I couldn't hold back any longer, and violently slapped Ryan Zhou in the face. That I didn't wait for Ryan Zhou to react, and then rushed to Margaret in 2 steps, grabbed her by the hair, dragged her all the way to the bathroom, and rode on top of her and slapped her dozens of times. "Wicked old hag, I tell you, today no matter whether my daughter can be found or not, I will not let go of you, this wicked old hag. You wait to eat jail." Margaret was in pain with tears in her eyes and shouted for help. Ryan Zhou held me at the waist and shouted at his wife to calm down. But how can I calm down when my daughter is still alive or dead? I didn't answer Ryan Zhou. I just slapped Margaret in the face again and again. "Tell me, why did you throw away Nora Zhou? That's your own granddaughter. Are you a human being or not? Why are you so heartless?" "Wife, Mom already knows that she is wrong. Her legs are almost broken trying to find Nora Zhou. Can't you let go of her first?" I looked at Ryan Zhou, whose eyes were flashing, and let go of his mom as he wished. At the same time, I also said the words that I had been brewing for a long time. "Ryan Zhou, get a divorce." Hearing that I want a divorce, Margaret, who had just been pressed underneath me and was crying without breath, instantly jumped up. "Lena Lu, are you sick? My son doesn't gamble, doesn't whore, and his salary is even higher than yours and your parents' combined salary. So where will you find such a good husband if you leave my son? Where can you find such a good husband if you don't think of giving him a son, but you want to divorce him? Are you possessed by Emily Zhou? Do you want me to ask the spiritual advisor to do a law for you? To tell you the truth, Zhou Nua, that dead girl is I intentionally said to travel. You do not think I do not know. Every year as long as you pick me over for the new year, deliberately send that dead girl to your parents' side. You just do not want to let me contact her." She was finally willing to spit out the truth, and I laughed back in anger. "Wicked old hag, first of all, my parents and I don't make as much as Ryan Zhou, but my parents have 3 sets of development properties and 2 sets of commercial storefronts, which your son couldn't even get in 3 lifetimes in this city," she said. "Secondly, you look down on women so much, saying Emily Zhou Nua is a dead girl. May I ask what you are? What are you, a eunuch without roots? I've been married to Ryan Zhou for all these years. I've seen enough of your face. I've had enough of your all kinds of nonsense and demonizing all day long. You cry, you make 3 hangings, for emotional blackmail, 5 cursing, now see you just like seeing a turd as nausea and want to vomit. 2 sentences dislike to wicked old hag face green. I turned my head to Ryan Zhou. "First, I know you have the idea of me having a second child, but I'm sorry, I don't want to. Secondly, all your talk about protecting me is actually a lie, Ryan Zhou. I've seen it. All these days, on the surface you do seem to be a good husband and father who cares about his family and loves his son, but in fact you're just as selfish as your mom, you don't love anyone, you only love yourself, divorce. With a breath, he spat out the words he had been holding in his heart for a long time, and was relieved. No longer paying attention to Ryan Zhou, who froze in place. I picked up Nora Zhou's latest ID photo and all the flashlights and left the door, calling the doorman and cleaning ants. We searched the dark abandoned buildings of the construction site one by one. Finally, when we found the fourth building, we got a call from the police and my parents. Nora Zhou had been found. Nora Zhou was found dead, cornered by a homeless man covered in dirt. Back when I got the call about Nora Zhou's disappearance, my parents called the police and brought them over here. Luckily, it was my parents who arrived earlier. If they were that much later, the consequences would have been unimaginable. I in the hospital, I hugged Nora Zhou, whose face was pale, and I was so scared that I couldn't stop my tears from falling. Why Nora Zhou, how helpless and terrified you were during that hour when you were lost. Why Mom hugged me with red eyes. Everything is fine. The doctor said that children's nerves are very restorative, and with a little intervention, she will forget the fear she felt during this time. Why Father, who was always calm and self-assured, gritted his teeth together. Damn wicked old hag, they'll call the police right now and have her detained for at least half a month. Speak of the devil, I had just told the pharmacist that Nora Zhou was 3.5 when I got a call from Ryan Zhou. Before Ryan Zhou could speak, he heard Margaret's voice. Lena Lu, what's wrong with you? I really heard you on the phone just now. You told the doctor that Nora Zhou was 3.5 years old. How can you be a mom and not even get the age of the baby right? Zhou Nua is obviously 5 years old. Doctor, it is 5 years old, nominal age. Ryan Zhou, on the other hand, sounded anxious. Ryan Zhou sounded anxious. Wife, I know I'm wrong. I've made you sad all this time. I had the idea of having a second child in the beginning, but after these few days, I figured it out, and tomorrow I'll send my mom back home. After Emily Zhou's busy day, I'm going to send my mom back home. After I finish Emily Zhou's funeral arrangements, they'll go look for a house. Well, move, and well, never see my mom again. Wife, you don't want me. I can't live without you and Nora Zhou. You don't leave me, okay? Ryan Zhou is the business manager in the company. Always say one. Now the tone is almost low to the dust. If I say I do not have a trace of shaking, it is false. After all, he is Nora Zhou's father, but his mom's scream that could pierce my eardrums fixed the last vestige of my wavering heart firmly. It's already this time. She is still arguing with me about the so-called nominal age. I found it absurd and ridiculous. Thinking about it, it's true, this is Ryan Zhou's mom. Ryan Zhou may never understand that he can't get rid of his mom, who is like a pile of shit-smelling dog plaster, not only sticking to him, but also disgusting and tormenting him all the time. I turned off my cell phone. No longer internal conflict, this marriage, I'm divorced, all the while nodding heavily at my dad, half a step away. Whether she constitutes abandonment or not, I want her to pay for hurting Nora Zhou. To make it easier to keep an eye on Nora Zhou, the home surveillance was directly connected to my cell phone. So when Margaret Wang was taken away by the police, I clearly witnessed the whole process. At first, she was still playing innocent with her old eyes blinking and kept denying the fact that she had abandoned Nora Zhou on purpose. When she saw the hard evidence presented by the police, she started to act crazy and yell. Again, she thought she could escape the law by using some unreasonable tactics like she did with Ryan Zhou, but the police were not her son and were not moved in the least. It was only when she heard that she might be detained for 7 days to half a month that Margaret Wang turned white with fear, trembling like an old hen with its neck in a chokehold. At the police station, the moment she saw me, who had been waiting for a long time, Margaret Wang's forehead turned blue. Margaret Wang's forehead veins suddenly burst out and she pounced on me like a madwoman. You bad omen, I knew it was you. I just threw that little bad omen to the door of the gated community, and you called the police to arrest me. Are you still a human being? Your Margaret, they'll be damned if you do that to me. You won't be any more. When she heard my words, Margaret Wang's action stopped in the middle of her pouncing, and as if she realized what was happening, she fell to her knees with a thud, and grabbed the corner of my clothes and burst into tears. Xiaoqing, I admit that I was wrong, I was deluded before I did such a thing. I beg you, don't let the police sentence me. We're family after all. They'll never ask you to do it again. Please let me off this time. I can't go to jail. How can I live in his village? She bawled, full of wounds. I just feel ridiculous. She cannot go to jail. But why didn't she think of now when she lost my Nora Zhou? If my Nora Zhou is ruined this life, can she be held responsible for that? Margaret Wang was detained for half a month. During this time, Ryan Zhou came to my door countless times begging me that he begged me not to divorce him and begged me to understand his mother. The last time I came to the door, I looked at the disheveled, bearded Ryan Zhou and said, "If you don't agree to divorce, well, go through the legal process. Wife, I won't agree. This is the severance letter. It'll go to the detention center to get my mom to sign it now, tomorrow. Well moved that I promise I won't let my mom disturb our life anymore, or I'll divorce myself and leave the house." Ryan Zhou went to the detention center, but my dad's friend who works there said that Ryan Zhou brought with him a lawyer and a bail letter. My dad's friend did the paperwork himself. He also heard Ryan Zhou keep telling Margaret Wong to keep a low profile and to go back home and stuff like that. When she was released on bail, Margaret Wong turned around, forgot about Ryan Zhou's advice, and called my parents. "You two old men, don't you understand that a married daughter can't survive? You're the ones who get involved in other people's business, and you're happy that I've been in jail for 5 days. Let me tell you, my son said he'll never agree to divorce your daughter, and neither will I. Not only will I not agree, I will continue to force your daughter to give birth to my son, so that not only your pension will be my grandson's, but also your house will be mine." Margaret Wong was getting more and more agitated, but I told my parents to keep quiet and dialed Ryan Zhou's cell phone. "Ryan Zhou, you're out of the house." Ryan Zhou is really Ryan Zhou. Once again, he didn't keep his word that I chose to sue. The lawsuit took a year and a half, and the divorce was finally finalized in the second trial. I managed to get half of the family assets and custody of Nora Zhou. Ryan Zhou knew that he had gone back on his word and could not face Nora Zhou and I. He took his mom back to his hometown. I also brought Nora Zhou and my parents to the city to start a new life. But not everything was rosy. For example, I often received calls from Ryan Zhou's mom who changed her cell phone number. "Lena Lu, you're definitely having an affair. How else would you dare to divorce my son? You're a slut. I'll curse you, Lena Lu, you bitch. How dare you take away half of my son's money that he has fought so hard for? It's all his, give it back to me." Or maybe it's a text message from Ryan Zhou in the middle of the night. "Wife, I really miss you. I now realize how important you and Nora Zhou are to me. Can we go back? Wife, I finally understand what you said at the beginning. I think I am a good husband and son, but today when the car rushed, I subconsciously hid behind my mom. I really like my mom, no matter how to disguise. I only love myself. Wife, the company is so difficult now. I need you so." I sneered and silently deleted the message. "Without me, he certainly finds it difficult to start a business." Margaret Wong still thinks that his son is his own ability to stand firmly in this city. But without my parents' help and support, how could he have succeeded in just 2 years? Now without my parents' resources, of course he will find it difficult to run the company. He changed the numbers of his family members, which made his life much cleaner. But there are still some things that have been passed on through relatives. For example, Margaret Wong and that so-called spiritual advisor are not just believers, they were lovers. For example, Ryan Zhou couldn't stand his mom's daydreaming with the spiritual advisor, so he stabbed the spiritual advisor with a knife. The spiritual advisor died. Ryan Zhou was sentenced to life imprisonment. Margaret Wong, who couldn't take it anymore, became a fool and spent her days laughing at the pedestrians on the street. When I found out about all this, I couldn't be happy. Ryan Zhou has a criminal record. What about my Nora Zhou's public examination? On the contrary, my mom is very open-minded. Silly kid, with all the houses in our family, do we still need Nora Zhou to work? If she wants to work in the future, she can find an easy job. If she doesn't want to, we can support her for the rest of her life, 2 lifetimes. Looking at my mom's concerned expression, the darkness in my heart gradually lifted. Yes, there is more than one way to live. There's more than one way to live. Why should I define my daughter's life so early? Her life will be a life of freedom and endless possibilities. What could be more important than that?